Hi guys, it's me, Mr. Bertoch, your incredibly handsome science teacher. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the cycles of life. As you wander out and about, and maybe you're on a hike or you're walking on the sidewalk in your neighborhood or whatever, you encounter a lot of things. And some of them are alive and some of them are not alive. Or, in other words, some of them are living and some of them are non living. And one of the characteristics, one of the ways that we can tell living things from non living things is that living things pass through cycles that we call life cycles. And this is typical of all living things, including you, because you too are a living thing. And so you also, of course, pass through the cycles of life cycles. Some of the cycles that we encounter or see or find when we are studying living things, some of those cycles apply to all living things, and others apply just to a few, just to one species or a few species. What cycles or which cycles apply to all living things? Well, all living things are born in some way. They come into life. Their life starts at some point. You obviously haven't been alive forever. You were not alive, for example, when your parents were your age. When they were children like you were not alive yet. Okay, but now you obviously are. So at some point between then and now, you sparked into existence. You became a living thing. You were born. All living things are born. Then all living things grow from very small to whatever size they ultimately grow up to become. So humans, we are human size. We are like 5 to 6 feet tall typically. Some are shorter and some are much taller when NBA players when they're done growing. But for the most part, there's a range, 5 to 6 feet ish, that humans tend to end up at. And you may not be that tall yet because you're still growing. You're a child, but eventually you will grow to your full size. So there's birth, and then there's growth. Those are cycles that you are going through. What else? Well, another cycle that living things go through is that they reproduce. Okay, they create life. So a plant reproduces by sending out seeds, and the seeds find new ground and they grow up, they sprout. That's the growth, right? The seeds are born, so to speak, and they sprout, they grow. We talked about that, and they become bigger, and then they reproduce and they make more seeds, and those seeds go off and grow and sprout up and grow and reproduce, etc. And the last phase or cycle that all living things pass through is death. They die. Eventually, all living things die. Everything that has ever lived will eventually die. That is just a fact of life. There are some things that live a very long time, like some sea urchins can live more than 400 years. Sea turtles can live, some of them, well over 100 years. And some plants, like trees, can live over 5,000 years, which is pretty amazing. But eventually, all living things, eventually they die. They stop being alive. So those cycles, birth, growth, reproduction, and death are common to all living things. But some cycles apply only to specific living things. Well, what about, for example, humans? What cycles apply to a modern human that don't apply to anything else? Can you think of anything that you do that is part of the life of a human that is not part of the life of a giraffe, for example? That's a cycle that a giraffe wouldn't go through. Well, you grew and you became about 5 years old, and what did you start doing? You started going to school and learning to read and write and do math and to, I don't know, maybe ride a bike. Okay? And your parents did something very similar at the same age. They went through the same cycles. Well, a giraffe doesn't go to school, doesn't learn math or reading or writing. So that's a cycle. It's a behavioral cycle, not a growth cycle, but it's a cycle that only humans experience. Can you think of a cycle that an animal might experience that we don't? So what about a frog? Does a frog pass through the same growth patterns that we do? Okay, it's born and it grows and it reproduces and it dies, but how is its growth different from our growth? What do frogs start as? Frogs start as tadpoles, right? Kind of like, they look like fish, little fishy things. And they grow little tiny legs eventually, and they grow bigger first, and then they grow little legs, and they slowly turn from a fish-like animal into a lizard-like animal, into a frog. We don't do that. We don't start as fish swimming in the bathtub and then slowly sprout legs and arms, and then hooray, one day we're a fully formed human. Okay, so we grow differently. So that's a different cycle than humans have. And there's a lot of those kinds of cycles that apply only to a specific animal. In fact, most animals have their own unique, because the animals are unique, the species are unique, so they pass through their own unique set of cycles. All living things pass through cycles. All living things pass through the four main cycles that we talked about: birth and growth and reproduction and death. And then there are other cycles that are specific to a living thing that only that species or a group of species pass through, that are not shared with other living things. Hi guys, thanks for watching my video. These rambling science videos where I go unscripted and just kind of barf up all the science knowledge out of my head are part of a series that go along with an online class that I teach, which you can sign up for if you go to handsomescienceteacher.com. I also have a whole bunch of free resources for homeschoolers. I have hundreds of articles on every topic that covers your entire science curriculum from 5th through 8th grade. I have online games and quizzes, all curated and written by this handsome guy, a science teacher with, well, three degrees, but 2 of them are in science. So it's targeted right to and directly to your science students. So sign up, subscribe to the channel, and I release lots of videos. Also, in addition to these ones, lots of little short videos that are like 2 minutes long that cover science topics. Those ones you don't get to see my handsome face, but they're still good videos, and they're much more targeted, and those ones are scripted, so you don't have to hear me like you are right now going blah blah blah. The end. Subscribe. Thank you. Goodbye.